you've completed your force equals mass times acceleration lab or Newton's second law lab, you'll want to create a chart in Excel that shows your masses and accelerations with a scatter plot. So this tutorial will show you how to do that. What you'll want to go ahead and do first is open an Excel document, and you can do that by going to Microsoft Excel and clicking on the green X here. Sorry, I said document, it's actually a spreadsheet. So you'll see the spreadsheet open here. The next thing you'll want to do is transfer your information from your lab sheet over to this spreadsheet. And it should look something like this. Notice I have a title here, predicted and experimental accelerations, and then I have a column for each of my data sets for the mass, and then for the mass I should have a predicted value of acceleration and experimental value of acceleration. I have that for each mass. So this chart is set up. One thing I will point out is that I have my units here with my whatever I'm measuring. Okay, so I have grams with my mass and meters per second for each of my accelerations. Some people maybe aren't familiar with how to do superscript to make that second squared. So if you highlight that and then on the home ribbon click the down arrow here, and you can click superscript there, and it will make your 2 go up so it's a squared. Okay, you can see I've got those. All right, we're going to go ahead and insert our graph, but before we do that, we need to determine what the dependent and independent variables are so that we know how to input our data for the chart. So in this case, the mass is our independent variable, and the accelerations are our dependent variables. So the mass will go on the x-axis, and the predicted and experimental accelerations will go on the y-axis. So let's go ahead and create our chart. Go to Insert, the Insert ribbon. You'll see the different chart options, and you'll click on Scatter Plot. We're going to go ahead and pick the one that just has data points instead of ones with lines. We'll add a trend line or a line of best fit later. Sometimes Excel is going to do this, and it's going to give us a, it's going to guess on what it thought we wanted to make the chart like. We don't want to use that. So if this happens, we're going to delete the data series. Most of the time, when you create a chart though, it shouldn't guess for you, and you should just get a blank chart like this. If you do get the chart, we just delete those series, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So notice that if I click off of that chart, those tools that I can use for the chart go away. If I activate the chart tools come back. There's 3 ribbons under chart tools that we'll use. So the first thing that we're going to do is select data, and we'll do that in the design ribbon here. Click select data, and let me move this over a little bit first so you can see it better. Okay, so I'm gonna first of all add a series. Now if you had anything here that were already in the series, you would want to go ahead and just remove those so that we can start fresh and create the graph the way we want it, not what Excel thinks it should do. Let's go ahead and add our data series by clicking add, and it's going to come up with this box here. Now I have to decide what series I'm working with, and the first series I'm going to work with is the predicted acceleration. So I just click on that box and it automatically puts the information in here. Don't worry if it looks like a jumbled mess, that's just the reference to the cell. So you can move now to the x values, and we just said that the x values for this are going to be the mass, and we'll just select the areas, click and drag to select the numbers that make up the data points for the mass. And then we need to go pick the y values. You notice there's already something in there. You need to go delete that out. Now we can select our y values, which are the data points for predicted acceleration. And you can see over here, it's already started to add those points onto my chart for me. I can click OK. And I have my first series on the graph with mass on the x-axis and the acceleration values on the y-axis, and here's my line of predicted points, the data here. Now I want to add the experimental acceleration. So I'm going to go through the same process. Add a series. The series that I'm working with now is the experimental acceleration. The x values are going to stay the same. It's going to be the mass, and I only select the numbers. And again, for the y values, delete this out. And we'll go ahead and select the experimental accelerations. Click OK. And you can see I've got both series on here, and they show up on my chart here. That's all there is to making the graph and putting the data points on there. Now, I need to make some adjustments to my chart. You'll notice that it's missing a title. Oops, trying to make it a little bigger here. It's missing a title, there's this big white space here, and neither of my axes have labels on them. So we want to go fix all that right now. First thing I'm going to do is add a chart title. So up here on the chart tools, I'm going to go to the layout ribbon and chart title. And I'm going to put my title above the chart. The best way to enter text into one of these text boxes is to click on it once and then highlight what you want to replace, and then you can just start typing. Okay, so I have my title. I can click off of there. If I need to move it a little, it's not really centered. I'm going to go ahead and just scoot it over, click and drag it over a little. There we go. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to add data labels to my axes, and I want to change the range so there's not so much white space here because that doesn't look good. So I'm going to go ahead and go to axis titles here. Again, this is on the layout ribbon. And I want to add a title on the primary horizontal axis. And that's going to be my mass in grams as the unit. There we go. Now I want to get rid of this white space. The way you do that is you go down here to your axis and you right click along the axis. And you'll see that it says Format Chart Area. Oops, I didn't click in the right space. It shouldn't say that. What it should say is Format Axis. So you have to make sure you click on one of the numbers down here. So Format Axis. And up here, you'll see that it gives us some minimum value. Right now, Excel guessed that we wanted it to be at 0. I want to fix it to my own number, and I want that to be about 0.032-ish, somewhere in there. So 0.032 should give me what I want. Now you see it automatically adjusted it. So all I did was change the minimum from 0 to 0.032, and it got rid of that white space. Okay, I can close that now. All right, that looks much better. And now I can go ahead and put a label on my axis, my other axis, the vertical one. And I'm just going to pick the rotated title, and this is going to be acceleration. And that's going to be in meters per second. Instead of trying to format, which is difficult sometimes, a superscript 2, we can do meters per second per second. That's the same thing as meters per second squared. Okay, so I've labeled both my axes. I like the values on both of them, and I even have my little legend over here. You can choose to get rid of that or change the names if you want just by clicking over here. If you double click on it, it'll allow you to make some adjustments if you want. Okay, the last couple of things that we're going to do, first of all, is I want to go ahead and put this into, we need to add a trend line first, so let's go ahead and do that. To add a trend line, there's two ways to do it. First, I can right click and say add trend line. Or I can come over here to trend line on my layout menu and say I want a linear trend line, a line that is it's actually straight line, not a curved line. So we're going to click linear trend line, and then you need to tell which data series you want it for. We'll do this twice. Click OK. All right. You could go through and do the same thing for the other one, but I'll show you how to do it here by right-clicking. Right-click on a data series, add trend line, and it already says it's linear. That's all. So that's automatically created an average line, a line of best fit through all of the data points here. And it also added those over here to our legend. Okay, now we are ready to take our chart and move it to a new sheet, and we can do a couple of things to make it look a little nicer, and then we'll transfer it over to a Word document. So let's take our chart here, and to move it, we're going to go back to the Design menu under Chart Tools, Move Chart, and I want it to have its own sheet. New sheet, call it whatever you want. And now you'll see that it's created a new tab down here. My data is still on this sheet, but it just moved that chart to its own sheet. Now I can do some fun things under the Design menu. It's up to you if you want to mess with this, but I like to change up what my chart looks like using these pre-formatted colors and backgrounds and whatnot. So all I've done was apply a style to this chart, and I think it looks nice like that. You can mess with, there's a lot of different styles you can choose from if you want to. One thing to be aware of is this does make the graphic, the font a little bit smaller if you mess with some of these. So you may need to come over here to the home menu and just select your text boxes and increase the font on those a little bit. All right, that looks okay. So now I can go ahead and when you're finished with your lab, you're going to need to have it all in a Word document. So we're going to need to transfer this over to a Word document. So obviously we need to go ahead and open Microsoft Word. A fun little feature is you can take Word, any window in Windows here, and you can click and drag it to the side, and it will automatically make it where half the screen. You can take your other screen and drag it to the side, and now you have both screens side by side. It's just a quick way to tile them next to each other. All right, now I can right-click on my chart, copy it, and right-click in Word. And there's lots of options for pasting. I would recommend that you paste your chart as a picture. This will allow you to move it around as a unit, and then it's not linked to any other documents or spreadsheets. So we're just going to paste this in as a picture. Now I'm going to bump the top here, and then I can adjust the size of this a little bit too so it fits better. So let's go ahead and... Now, one trick I'll also show you is that right now I can't move this anywhere unless I do some funky stuff to it. So what I want to do is under Picture Tools here, I want to change the text wrap to square. And now I have the ability to move this around a little bit more where I want it. The last thing we're going to do is take our data chart that we created in Excel and move that into Word as a table. So go back to your Excel document, and we want to take, let's see, where did my document go here? We want to take our data here and select it. And then I want to copy it. I'll come over to my current Word document now. And a couple of double clicks down here. Oops, I don't want that highlighted. All right, we'll just paste it up here. Right click, paste it. And I recommend you paste it over as a chart, like this. Now, really easily, we can go and format this by highlighting it going up to the table tools in the design menu here and picking something that's pre-formatted. It looks nice. Adjust that a little bit and voila, you have a well-formatted chart and chart here and table here for your lab. When you turn this in, you'll have a few other requirements to put on your document, but that's how you make your chart here with your two different data series and your table here. Thanks for watching.